You can only conquer yourself. You can only conquer yourself, Liz Shaw.
In 1963, Jim Whittaker became the first man from the United States to stand on top of Mount Everest. When he returned to the States, a journalist said to him, "Hey Jim, how did you conquer that mountain?" And he said, "You can never conquer the mountain. You can only conquer yourself." Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, and most welcome guests, I am a Mount Everest addict. If you belong to my club, you would hear speech after speech about Mount Everest. I read all the books, I watch the TV shows, the movies, and then I start and do it all again. I never understood why. I have no interest in climbing Mount Everest. It's cold there. But one day, a therapist that I work with said to me, "Liz, I get it. You have already climbed Mount Everest. You conquered cancer." And in that moment, I realized that every person I meet either has already climbed Mount Everest, they're in the middle of climbing it, or it's right down the street waiting for them. So I went back to my books and I started reading those stories again. The stories about people who risked their lives to climb some mountain. How did they do that? I learned three things. First, you have got to have a climbing buddy. You will die without one. A climbing buddy isn't there to hold your hand. A climbing buddy is not there to talk to. A climbing buddy is there to make sure that you make smart decisions. Because when you've got summit fever, you might forget to look and notice that the clouds have changed and there is a deadly storm moving in. You might forget to look at your watch and realize that you are running out of oxygen. My mother was my climbing buddy going through cancer. She was the one that dragged me to the emergency room with 103 fever because I said, "It's okay, Mom, in the morning it'll be less." Well, I had a 0 white blood cell count, and I could have died without my climbing buddy. The second thing you do when you're climbing Mount Everest is you hire a team of Sherpas. Sherpas are the native people who live in the Himalayan mountains. They are born and raised at high altitude. They are used to not having very much oxygen. They can work longer and harder and recover faster than us people from the desert. Then they'll go out and do the same thing the next day while we're resting. Sherpas do all the hard work. They break the trail, they fix the safety ropes, they carry all the equipment up the mountain, they set up the camps, they do the cooking. Literally, all you have to do is put one foot in front of the other to get yourself up and then back down. And by the way, if you break your leg, they're going to help you get back down too. You've got to have Sherpas. My Sherpas were my primary care physician who handled all the side effects of treatment, my oncologist, my radiation oncologist, the people that I got second opinions from, but most importantly, the support group of people who had already survived breast cancer. Those women, I couldn't have done it without them. They told me when to go get my head shaved. They told me what to get when my mouth broke out in sores. When we thought that I had metastases in my liver, I got calls from Germany, Australia, Israel, a lot of places in the United States, from people telling me to hold on and wait, and that it wasn't going to be a death sentence if it was true. I couldn't have done it without my team of Sherpas. The third thing is something called acclimatization. The top of Mount Everest is called the death zone. There is not enough oxygen there to support life. If I were to take Michael in my magic helicopter to the top of Mount Everest right now, we would be dead within 5 minutes of landing there. we would suffocate. There is not enough oxygen. When a climber decides to go to Mount Everest, they arrive in Nepal or Tibet in March in order to climb during the weather window that's going to occur in mid-May. And they spend that 2 months doing what I call dancing with the mountain. They push up, fall back, and rest. Push up, fall back, and rest. Push up, fall back, and rest. If you asked a climber, they would tell you that the hard work of this is the push up. But it's not. The body is doing the hard work during the rest. That's when the kidneys, the spleen, and the bone marrow are building all the red blood cells that are going to allow them to survive in the death zone for a day to a day and a half. Without that rhythm of dancing with the mountain, you cannot climb Mount Everest. Now, when I was diagnosed with cancer, I didn't understand the dance. I heard I had cancer. I said to the doctor, "Get it out of me, get it out of me now." And he said no, because the decision you make about the surgery you're going to have will affect your quality of life. Get a second opinion, take time to think about it, then come back. And the entire time I had cancer, that's what we did. We pushed up to a new problem, then we fell back and we rested. Get a climbing buddy. Hire your Sherpas. But most of all, learn the dance. Because it's during that dance that transformation occurs. That's when your mind gets used to your new reality so that you see the world and the people in it in a new way. That's when your heart expands to accept the beauty and the pain of life. But most of all, it's when your spirit learns to walk by faith. Climbing buddy, Sherpas, and dancing. If you can do that, then you will know the truth of what Jim Whittaker said. You can never conquer the mountain. You can only conquer yourself. Madam Congress.